Hello, welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things holistic. I am your host, Cheryl Lee. Today's guest is Brett Canaday, otherwise known as the JuiceFeaster. He runs the Juice Test Kitchen and has completely transformed his health through juicing, most notably doing a 105-day juice feast. We sit down today to discuss Brett's journey from an overweight, unhealthy winery owner to a completely transformed, regenerated version of himself through juicing. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast. I am your host, Cheryl Lee. And today I have Brett Canaday on. He is otherwise known as the JuiceFeaster on Instagram. And he runs the Juice Test Kitchen and completely transformed his health through juicing. And I think most notably, you did a 105-day juice fast. So I can't wait to talk to you about that because I actually have never talked to anybody who's done that long of a juice fast before. So I can't wait to get into that. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast, and I look forward to chatting with you for sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Sweet. Thank you. So I always like to start off with giving my audience a bit of a background, like what got you to being the Juice Feaster?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think like a lot of people, we wait until our health hits a rock bottom moment and then we decide to do something different. And for me, it was really no different. I guess I could back up from the very beginning and give a quick summary of the total course of events. But I grew up in Indiana, central Indiana, Midwest farm kid, eating the standard Western diet, just like everybody else does in that part of the world, a livestock and grain farm. So animal products, dairy, everything, were all part of our lives. I went to college actually, with an agricultural background. I wanted to stay involved in agriculture, so I went into food chemistry. So for all of those folks that wonder how those processed food products come about that make you want to eat more and more of them, well, that's what food scientists do. So I got a degree in food science, food chemistry, way back in 1996 from Purdue University. And from there, throughout my career, I worked primarily in the beverage industry. Now, not the type of juice that I consume today, but the commercial, industrialized, processed, heat-treated, filtered juice that you see in stores was what I did. I did formulations, I did product development, flavorings, cost reductions. Right out of the gate, I was doing all sorts of these things, working with packaging plants to troubleshoot, production problems, et cetera, et cetera. But while I was in college, I went from a small Midwestern farm town and I was dropped onto a university with 40,000 people, of people from all over the world. And I was exposed to all these new ideas, which is one of the great things about going to university.
Right.
And I came into, I was always an outdoor kind of kid. And when I got to college, I was seeking out, clubs to be a part of. And I synced with this environmental action group and I met all these vegans. And I was like, you got to eat meat, I'm a farm kid. But it made me think, it was the first time in my life that I'd ever started to think about, there's a different way for us to consume the nutrition that we get. And so went through my career for the most part eating, the same kind of food, standard American diet, never really had any issues. And I think as a young person, you can pretty much get away with a lot of things. For most people, we can get away with eating really pretty much whatever you want. I was active. I was, a runner, a cyclist, all these things, but never really had any problems with eating a standard American diet.
Right.
About 2004, 2005, my wife decided to step out on her own and start a small business of our own. And so with my beverage background and her project management experience, we decided to start a winery. So we started a winery and owned and operated a winery for 15 years. And we made mead and hard cider. And when you're in that industry, you tend to imbibe in that industry.
Yes, so I bet.
along with my standard American diet that I was consuming, I was also sampling quite a bit of my product and others' products. So
Right.
alcohol was certainly a main element in my life. Everything in our lives revolved around it. And
Right.
so couple that with running a business. We were growing, we were doing big investment projects and growth projects, and starting to distribute in other states. And little by little, all these things started to come in and work on the stress of running a business,
Yeah.
the alcohol consumption, the standard American diet, staying up late, getting up early, working, night and day. All these things started to take their toll on me. And so eventually this bill came due and I started getting sick really frequently.
Wow.
Like clockwork, once a quarter, I would get a terrible sore throat, bronchitis, chest pains, difficulty breathing. And that was kind of like once every, 2 to 4 months I would get that.
Right.
And it would put me out for a couple of days. After that, or with that, I should say, just kind of on the regular, I was achy, my joints ached, I was picking up weight. It was harder and harder for me to have the energy that I needed to get through the day doing what we were doing, running a business and managing employees and managing, production and distribution of our products. So it all kind of came to a head in 2013, 2014. And I was out walking my dog one morning. I woke up, I felt terrible, and I thought, well, here we go again, another bout of sickness. And I had this lump in my groin, which was a lymph node that was like the size of a tennis ball.
Wow.
Hard, just painful. I could feel like the fever wave coming over me from my sickness. And this manifested into shingles, and I was on my back for about a week and a half with a pretty terrible case of shingles. And it was in this moment where I was on my back for a couple of weeks and I had some time to think. I'm 42, 43 years old. What's the rest of my life going to be like? And so it was in that moment that I made the decision that I was going to make some changes. So in August of 2014, I went to my wife and I said, Tia, what do you think about going plant-based? And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I think this might be something that I need to do. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's on me, but I would really like to take this leap. And so she said, I'll try it out. So we jumped in, and that was August 1st, 2014. And that was really the first step that I took to making a pretty severe change in the right direction, in my opinion. So I will back up to right after I graduated college. I was working in the juice industry, and I'd been exposed to these crazy vegan kids in college. And I was my first job was in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, working for a cranberry juice company. It's called Northland Cranberries. And I think there's still some products on the shelf today. But I was in their natural food section of the local grocery store, Cops Supermarket, and I was looking at the little book rack that they had there, and there was a book by Steve Meyerowitz, and he was the Sprout Man. And he had a book on juice fasting. And I was like, this is really crazy. You can like drink juice, for like, extended periods of time. So I bought this book, and I still have it today. For all of the moves that I've made and relocation projects I've had, this book always came with me. And at that point in time, I bought a Champion juicer. So that was fall of 1996. I bought this juicer. I still have it today. And I like a lot of people, juiced a little bit, and it kind of went by the wayside. I didn't have any health issues. I didn't need to juice fast. So I stuck it in the cabinet, and that was kind of that. But after I started making changes on my health, as I was doing more research, I started, remembering, having this memory of what I had learned about juice fasting. So I pulled that book out, I dusted off the old Champion juicer, and started putting it to work. And the combination of, a new vegan lifestyle and flooding myself with juices really made a tremendous change for me. I
I
saw
bet.
improvements right away. So that's kind of the history through and
Wow.
through to there. I worked up to the 105-day juice feast that you mentioned earlier. I started doing like, well, let's see how long I could go. Can I go a
Yep.
day? I would do that, work
Hmm.
myself up. Can I go a day and a half? Let's try that. So I would do that. And that all led up to kind of another culmination of events. My wife and I decided that we no longer, as our health was improving, we were no longer resonating with the alcohol industry.
Right.
So we decided to sell our business. So in 2017, 2018, we made the decision to do that, get out of the alcohol industry, change our career paths. And one of the things I was interested in, because I had had such tremendous results with my health, was the health and wellness industry.
Right.
How can I help people feel as good as I feel, if not better than I feel,
Yeah.
with that career? So I set out on January 1st, 2018, to do a 30-day juice fast. So I did that, and that was so transformational that it sealed the deal. I no longer wanted to be in the alcohol
Yep.
industry or that commercial beverage industry, and I wanted to change directions completely. And that was that. We made the decision. We sold our company within a year. We had sold our company, and JuiceFeaster was born. I put
Wow.
the Instagram account together basically just as accountability. I'm going to make this statement. Hey, I'm
Yep.
doing this. You can watch me or not watch me. I don't care, but I'm making a public statement that I'm going to do this, and it's going to hold me accountable. And so let's go. So
Wow, that is such an amazing story.
yeah,
So
thank you.
was that the alcohol component of it? Because I know a lot of people struggle with not only just the high, I guess, you get from drinking alcohol, especially like there's a whole kind of, community of when you're into wine.
Sure.
So but there's that social aspect. So was that a really hard transition to come out of that, not only from from kind of getting the feelings of alcohol, but also that social aspect as well?
Absolutely. And I was making the transition while we were still in the business, while we were
Hmm.
still operating the business.
Hmm.
So when I would go to wine dinners or tasting events where everyone, and I mean everyone, is drinking,
Yeah.
in order to do that, I had to come up with ways to still be social and
Mm.
still enjoy the event and do what I needed to do, but not come across as someone who was like anti-alcohol,
Right. Yeah.
so I found some tricks to do that. At dinners, I would often have the bartender make me a mocktail
Yeah.
or just a simple tonic and lime, and
Hmm.
I could have a drink in hand,
Yep.
still be clear and present and
Yes.
conscious as I was learning to develop that skill set, and still be able to be part of the event and be social
Yeah.
and have a good time. And I remember the first couple of times that I did that, it felt really awkward,
Yeah, I
really
bet.
strange, because we have this neurological pathway of, as soon as that sip hits your lips and
Yes.
your taste buds, your body begins to, send out all these chemicals.
Yeah.
And I found that as I would take that first drink, I would start to feel those same feelings, like it's putting me back into an alcohol consumer. And so
Right.
it took a little bit of adjustment to be able to navigate that change. But I would say after about 3 months, 2 or 3 months of practicing that at
Yep.
events, just consciously setting an intention before I went
Hmm.
to an event and saying, okay, Brett, tonight, here's the
Yeah, you
deal.
have to give yourself a little pep talk.
You're going to be with all the buds, all right? They're going
Yeah.
to want to go and shotgun a beer, or,
Yeah.
they're going to go
Yeah.
out back and partake in some smoke, so like
Yeah.
I had to say, this is all going to happen, and you're going to choose a different path because your new state of being is one that doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah, right.
And the longer it went, the easier it got, to be
Yeah.
honest. And it just
Yeah.
became, I didn't even think about it.
So I feel like, oftentimes when we go on this road of creating, more holistic health and, incorporating more juices and raw foods, there's kind of like a death, like a rebirth that happens where we let the old self go and allow for the new self to enter. And it's a new version of ourselves that not only we are getting acquainted with, but also the people around us. And so how did the people, like, did you find kind of organically that people fell away that were in your life, or were there some people that were, they're still in your life today that were like ride or die, doesn't matter? Like,
Yeah.
what did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was a definite change, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
definite new person, and a death of that old person. And it really is that. It really is that. When I would wake up every day, I felt like my DNA had changed. Like
Yeah.
my being had changed, and it was noticeable to people for sure.
Yes.
Because people that I would typically consume with or even over consume with
Mm-hmm.
and behave with in a certain way under the influence of alcohol or drugs or whatever, they
Yeah.
would notice that I wasn't that way anymore. And they would notice, and maybe they would say something, or maybe they wouldn't. I recall one big example of this was there was a big brewery festival that we would participate in early in the year. So maybe the second week in February.
Right.
And in 2018, I had just finished my 30-day juice fast. And 2 weeks later, I'm at this beer festival where there's 5,000 people and
Right.
people that I've known for 15 years that would come to our booth and sample our products and hang
Yeah.
out. And they saw me, and I was literally, 35 pounds lighter. Like,
Right.
since they had seen me like 6 weeks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just in shock, really.
Taken
Like, what
back.
happened, Brett?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Brett, you look so good, man.
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, your skin, your color. Like,
Yeah.
did you go to Florida? What, like they were just like at a loss for words. And that whole day, it was a 4-hour festival. And from the moment we were setting up to the end of it, just so many people, I just could see them double taking at me, wondering like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
did he
Just
do?
not being able to figure it out.
Right. And I told my story like, a dozen times at least that day to
Yeah.
people that I was close to who asked. And so with regards to people falling away, that certainly did happen. We had a lot of friends that we would go out to the bars
Yeah.
with, or after we would close our tasting room down, we would go out and have a drink and something to eat before we would go home. And so a lot of those same people that we saw and would hang out with, we just didn't hang out with them anymore.
Yeah.
But there are still a very close group of people that we were deep friends with, that we still even travel with and
Yeah.
do vacations with together. So I think it really just depends on how closely we were tied with them to begin with. If they can truly understand the path and the journey that you're on and respect it and keep riding along with it.
Yeah.
So,
Right. And what about your family? Did your family support the changes that you had made?
well, they were certainly in favor of the reduction of the alcohol side of things. There was no drinking in my family growing up whatsoever.
Okay.
And I think, for me, I grew up in a household where there was no alcohol, and anyone
Right.
who drank was, if they had one beer, they were an alcoholic, so like,
Okay. Yeah, it was
that's the
really
level of
strict.
temperance that we had in my household. And so when I got to college, it was, turn me loose, here I go.
Party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So they were certainly in favor of that reduction. They thought it was absolutely nuts to go vegan, and my dad, being the old farm guy,
Right.
was certainly one to debate with me about it a lot, and those sorts of things. But I think initially I was a bit combative, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes new vegans can be a bit combative and a bit
Absolutely.
over informative, and try and tell people what is best for them rather than.
Yes.
And I think over time I learned that it was better for me to just show by example, and then
Mm.
people could ask questions if they were interested.
Right.
And over time, my family began to ask questions. What are you doing, Brett? Are your blood tests good? Like,
Yeah.
what do you get for protein? They were more like educational
Right,
type
right.
questions versus like, he's a crazy activist
Yeah.
vegan,
Yeah.
So they were supportive, especially seeing how, I was no longer getting sick anymore. I
Yeah.
was healthy and vibrant and doing well and in a good mood. And so they were definitely supportive as time went on. Started off a little rocky, but
Yeah. And I
got
think
better
that's
from
the
there.
case with so many people,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It's just like if your family isn't subjected to, even just plant-based, forget
Hmm.
about raw food.
Sure.
It's like, it's interesting because I think families, they take things so personally, like
Hmm.
almost as if, it's a direct assault on them personally. And so
Hmm.
it's like they have to like go through their own transition, like going through your transition. It's,
Right. Y-
so
Yeah, I liken it to if I were to change my name. Uh,
yeah,
I'm no longer Brett anymore. I'm Jamie. And
yes,
and then letting them know, and they would say,
totally.
"We named you Brett.
Yep.
That's the name we gave you. Your name is
Yes.
Brett, not Jamie." And
Yeah.
and so it's like you say, it's a death of that old person, and they raised me
Yeah.
eating a certain way, and how could that be bad? We raised you that way. We did the best for you. How could that be
Yeah.
bad? So it's a lot of emotions that go with it for sure.
There is for sure. But I feel like through all of that, there's such a transformation on the other side of that as a family unit, you
Hmm.
know? I kind of want to unpack a little bit so the 105-day juice. Do you like to call it a juice fast or a juice
Yeah,
feast?
I say juice feast. Just,
Juice feast.
just
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
good.
with
Either
that
way,
juice
good.
feast, you just mentioned you didn't start out right out of the gate and decide I'm going to do 105 days. You did it incrementally.
Yeah.
So so you started out, you said maybe like 1 day, 2 day, and then eventually you worked up to 30. And then what came after the 30?
So yeah, I did exactly that. I really wanted to. One thing I learned growing up on a farm is that anytime we make drastic changes to the diets of livestock,
Yep.
it's very shocking to their system. So
Right.
we had sheep and cattle on our farm, and my brother and dad still have cattle today. But anytime we would change their feed or their ration, like drastically, immediately,
Yeah.
they could get very sick. And so I think the same thing is very true for humans. We may be a little more tolerable of it, but
Mm,
anytime we go from one style of eating to
right.
another very abruptly, it's very shocking to the system.
Or
Even if you're going to something that's like truly amazing for you, your system just isn't used to it and doesn't have the
yeah.
microbiome for it, and making that shock. So I really wanted to make sure that any change that I made, I did it very gradually and gently. And
Okay.
so I started off basically just adding juice in with my normal lifestyle. I would just add in 16 or 32 ounces of juice a day in addition to whatever else I was eating
Got
as
you.
as a vegan, just to start getting those,
Right.
additional soluble and insoluble fiber and liquids coming into my system, and like, whoa, where are all these greens coming from?
Yeah.
So, and then as I went closer to the idea of doing a longer period of juice fasting, I would try a day, and then a day and a half, and then 2 days. And once I got up to 3 days, I felt pretty confident that I could rock 30 days no problem. So that's when I
Okay.
did the 30-day in January 2018, and we
Okay.
sold our business in May of 2019. And at that point, after closing that chapter out, I had some time, and
Okay.
I had always read a lot about and watched a lot of other folks do long-term juice fasts,
Hmm.
be it Dan McDonald or, yeah, any number
Yeah.
of people. And the funny thing is, I watched a lot of these people even when I was a standard American diet user.
Right.
Like I viewed these people and thought, wow, this might be the way here. And so I started bringing those memories back, like, okay, now I've got some time and I've got some space and I think I can do this.
Oh,
So
wow.
I typically like to start on January 1st and go till my
Yes.
birthday, which is February 3rd on juice only, which is
Okay.
33 days. But I did the math and I thought, well, let's see. If I start late October, I could go through the fall, through the winter, and finish on my birthday and just see where that ends up. So I picked a date and it arbitrarily came out as 105 days.
Wow.
So it was late October of 2019 that I started that one and then finished up on my birthday, February 3rd, 2020. And
Wow.
that was really the most transformational thing that I did. And it was definitely very challenging, but so rewarding. So I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to do the experience, learn so much, super transformational.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So I did 21 days a
Awesome.
couple of years ago, and that was really, I mean, by the 21st day, I was just like kind of at my wit's end, honestly. And I
Yeah,
also think it's, I thought, oh, it's hard when you have someone in the house also who might be eating cooked
sure.
food or, the smells and that type of thing. And so, did your wife participate with you on that juicing journey?
She didn't. No,
No.
no. She certainly consumed juice during that time, but
Uh-huh.
she's done a 30-day one. She's done one 30-day,
Okay.
but she's never done one quite that long.
Wow.
And so there was cooked food in the house. She's a cooked food, plant-based
Yeah.
eater, and so that was definitely challenging.
Yeah.
Towards the about the I don't know, maybe 30 days into it, I actually got to a point where it didn't affect me. Certainly those smells of cooked food are
Yeah.
tantalizing for sure, but I actually would prepare meals for her,
Yeah.
and I could do that without any problem for sure. There were obviously I went through all of the holiday season, so
Yes.
family events,
Wow, that's
social
amazing.
events where I went to restaurants and hung out and would just have a glass of water, or if they had juice, I would,
Have the
if
juice.
yeah, if we went to a brunch place, that
Mhm.
had juices, or we would pick places specifically that had, a lineup of fresh juices, and, I could sit and hang out. And I think what I figured out about all of that was that it wasn't as much about the food going to these events that I was there for. It was about the people. I was there to
Right.
hang out with the people and, the
Yeah.
people that I love and wanted to be with. And so when I took the focus off the food and onto the reason I was there, it really changed my perspective on going to a
Right.
restaurant and hanging out, or at a family event where there's loads of food out and about.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
but it
Do
was it was
you
challenging.
Yeah, I bet. So I know like Shane Sterling, for example, he recommends like when he does or is talking about his 30 or 40-day juice feast that it's very important to have juice in quantity and you don't want to be like any less. I think he recommends like 6 to 8 quarts a day. So
Yeah,
was that something that you were doing, like making sure that you had like a lot of volume of juice every
absolutely.
day? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I like to call it a feast,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
such. And I had attempted some shorter juice fasts, probably, I don't know, 2011, 2012, when I was starting to get some health issues. I'm like, man, maybe if I just do a 3-day cleanse,
Yeah.
I'll be better. And literally, as I think back, for like a weekend cleanse that I would attempt, I would always break it on, like, I'd start on a Friday evening,
Yeah.
and like Saturday evening I'd be like, let's go get pizza,
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I looked back, the reason why, I was literally having like, a liter of juice for the day,
Yeah.
or 2 liters of juice for the day, maybe like 500 or 700 calories. Well, no wonder you're
Yeah. You're
starving.
so hungry.
Yeah, and you went from eating, a standard American diet to like thinking that 750 calories of juice for the day is going to be,
Yeah.
sufficient, and it just didn't work. And
Right.
so when I started revisiting this process of fasting and cleansing and these types of things, one of the I guess the aha moments that I had was finding people like Shane or Dan McDonald or John Rose
Yeah.
who the light bulb went off when I heard them say, just consume the same amount of calories that you normally get when you're eating solid food.
Right.
Just do it with juice. And I was like, it's brilliant.
Yes.
You can do all the same things that you normally do, have the same amount of energy,
Yeah.
but simultaneously clean out your system, um, flood your body with just incredible concentrated nutrition that's just full of life and vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and antioxidants.
Sure.
And when I figured that out, it made the first 30-day juice feast that I did easy, and the 105-day very, very doable for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was my issue is I just didn't drink enough juice. In hindsight, I don't think I was getting enough calories for my activity level. Did you find that you, like, I'm sure you kind of got into your groove during that time, but the prep, like prepping the juice, did you do that? Did you just juice every time you made a juice and that was your serving? Or did you actually prepare and have, like 6, 8 quarts ready in the fridge?
Yeah, I would do it different ways. Some days, some weeks, I would juice every day or something, every other day. But a lot of times I would just make like 3 gallons at a time and know that I was going to drink it all in 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy to just make a lot, throw it in the fridge in ball jars and have it ready to go. So I was just making juice constantly, but I also had other things to do. So I didn't want to spend a ton of time doing it. So I got pretty good at optimizing my time where I could make a lot really quickly and then have it available in the fridge. Fresh is always best.
Yeah.
But to think that you're going to make juice 6 times a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the juicer out, clean it, repeat 6
Put it
or
away,
7
repeat,
times.
repeat. Yeah.
It'd be like trying to make a pan of lasagna from scratch every day, like 4 times. Yeah, you're not going to.
And I think that can sometimes deter people when they think about that. It becomes like very overwhelming.
Sure.
Whereas it's like, of course, just doing it right on the spot is best. But if you make some concessions just for the convenience, right? You're still getting all those nutrients. I mean, a lot of these juices that claim to be like cold processed that are, in the Whole Foods or whatever, they're still sitting on the shelf for like 30 days, right?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and for 3 days, it's very doable to still have incredible nutrition and enzyme activity in the juices.
Yeah, totally. So the question that's always everyone wants to know is, was there a split of fruit to green? Like, did you consume fruit juices? It seems to always be the topic when it comes to
all fruit.
Really?
Almost all fruit. Yeah, I would typically have 1 to 3 liters of green juice.
Yep.
And then anywhere from like 3 to 5 liters of fruit juice. And
okay, wow.
Like you were mentioning, Shane says that 6 to 8 quarts. Well, it really depends upon what ingredients were in those 6 to 8 quarts.
Right.
200 calories in a quart of watermelon juice versus 650 calories in a quart of grape juice. So
right, yeah, for sure.
So I had to really look at the caloric. I generally thought, I would assess green juices to generally be around 300 calories for a quart.
Yeah.
And I knew exactly all the fruit juices, like pineapple juice is 450 or grape juice is 625. I knew them all exactly what they were, so I could map out my day pretty accurately and know where I was at.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it was calories from the fruit and from the fruit juices, and just concentrated nutrition from the green juices. So I found it to be a good balance for me. Other people, I think, tend to shy away from that. I think humans thrive on fruit sugar, and so it worked for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did that too. I ate a lot. Or I should say, I drank a lot of fruit juice as well.
For sure.
Did you find, so during that course of that journey that you were on, there must have been a lot of maybe emotions that came to the surface, maybe some like spiritual, epiphanies, these types of things. Like, was there anything that kind of stood out that was Like, I know I've heard a lot of people who do really a lot of extended juice fasting. It's like old traumas will come up,
For
old,
sure.
wounding, these types of things. And it's really an opportunity to kind of like get that up and out if you have the awareness to know that, wow, this is coming up right now. I'm cleansing the body, but I'm also cleansing my emotional body. Did you have any
Absolutely.
of those types of experiences?
I did, and it was definitely transformational for me in that light as well.
Mm,
One of the biggest things that I found that came out of me was a greater sense of empathy and compassion, and also forgiveness for people that I felt like I began to take. I had a lot of time to like take a look.
yeah.
We just sold our business, so I had some time to take a look at my life.
Yeah.
Just from a larger viewpoint, and I found that I had a lot of issues with people that I felt had transgressed against me, but
Hmm.
I found that really the common denominator in every instance that I had an issue with, I was always involved.
Right.
I was always there. If there was a bad business deal, I had a part in it. If
Right.
there were employees that had litigated against us, I had hired those employees. There was
Right.
always I had always made some part in that decision or that event. And so one of the biggest things I really dug into, and it came out of me during that 105 days, was forgiveness, passion, and empathy, and just really focusing a little bit more on love rather than trying to judge and
Yeah.
have that envy, or just a lot of those just base emotions of love came out of me.
Yeah.
So it was pretty profound. If
Yeah.
you can drink all the juice that you want and have Shilajit every day
Yeah.
and still be a miserable person. And I think
Absolutely.
that emotional component is very, very key, and it's one that I continue to work on today,
Yeah.
just to dig deeper and get better at it and become a better human.
Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of people who take, like you said at the beginning, who take on a juice feast and they do something more extended, they might be having a health crisis, but
Hmm.
oftentimes there's this sense of taking responsibility for the choices that we've made,
Yeah,
rather than projecting onto
absolutely.
everybody outside of ourselves. And
Yeah,
sometimes that in and of itself is, that can be something that really takes time to work through, because oftentimes we don't want to take responsibility. It's so much easier to project onto somebody else. And if we've done that for our entire life, to now be in the situation, where you're like, oh, wow, I did this to myself. I made the choices. I
yeah,
can't blame anybody else. But it's such a beautiful transformation and evolution if you can grasp that,
yeah. It certainly happened with me, and led me down a path of you know, finding meditation and
Yeah.
figuring out ways to connect with that, source
Yeah, for
energy, whatever you
sure.
want to call it.
Yeah.
And it continues today. It was so profound for me that I had to continue. There was no way that I couldn't experience the love and joy and compassion and empathy and leave it at the end of the 105 days of juice. I just had to keep going. It felt so
Yeah,
good.
right. Do you still incorporate like some juice feasting, like whether it's 10 days, 7 days,
I do.
periodically,
Yeah, I
regularly?
do. Every year since then, every year since 2018, I've done at least a 30-day starting in
Okay.
January, going to my birthday, February 3rd.
Yep.
This year, I changed it up a little bit. I had been investigating, metabolic health and metabolic improvements and things like that, and started doing a little bit of intermittent fasting and throwing in, a little bit of water fasting.
Yep.
And this year on January, I kicked off a 7-day water fast. So
Wow,
I've
that was
just
going to be
come,
my next question.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just came off of, I think this is day 3 of me refeeding after coming off of that, and
Wow.
it was great. Yeah,
How,
I
how,
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Like, in your experience, is it completely different in your experience? Water fast versus a juice feast?
I wouldn't say completely different, but from an energy perspective, I was definitely much lower energy, especially the
Sure.
first up through the day 4. Really, I was pretty
Right.
low energy, and I'd worked myself up to here again, like I had done with juicing. I had kind of worked my way up to longer periods of
Right.
time without food, and I'd worked my way up to, I think I had done a 48 hour. I'd done a 2 day
Okay.
before I felt comfortable in doing 7. And so I kind of knew what I was in for because I'd experienced a little bit the beginnings of it on a
Right.
essentially a 2 day, and it just continued that. There wasn't much energy. The first couple of days, I felt okay enough to, do some push-ups and some
Sure.
pull-ups and,
Yeah.
a little bit of physical activity. I went for a jog on day 2, and about halfway through it, I was like, this is not what I should
Yeah.
be
It's
doing.
not happening.
I should be resting. The whole
Yeah.
point of this is for me to rest, like
Yeah.
to rest and recover and allow my body to, have a minute.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the time, I just chilled. I just rested, relaxed, meditated, chilled out, sat in the sun if the sun was out,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
did what I could to really soothe my soul and let my body do what it did best. And so it was challenging in the fact that I'm used to being so energetic and
Yes.
doing whatever I want, whenever I want, at the pace I want. And
Yeah.
it was humbling a little bit during the 7 days to be like, oh man, I don't feel so hot this morning.
Yeah.
That's not
And
what I'm
just to
used to.
honor that.
Yeah, just to soak in with it. So that was definitely different from juice fasting, juice cleansing versus water.
Yeah.
I could definitely feel a deeper sense of my body digging in, and
Mm.
just intuitively you kind of know what's going on in your body, and you feel things, moving
Yeah.
around a little bit. And I could
Yes.
definitely feel a difference without nutrition coming in and just water coming in, that the body was making some upgrades, like
Yeah.
it's cleaning house. And so I really appreciated the ability to tune into that and feel what was going on, and it was good. I'm definitely going to continue. I think kind of what I've set out for myself is to once a week do
Yes.
at least a alternate day, like a 36 hours.
Okay.
Say start on Sunday night after my last calorie intake, and then go through till like Tuesday morning, like once a week, throw that in. And the more research I do, I see a lot of, anti-aging and longevity
Yeah.
benefits. And, I'm turning 51 here in a few weeks, so I want to make sure
Yeah.
I'm taking
You're
care of
up to,
myself.
yeah, for
Right.
sure.
So I see a lot of research about longevity and cellular
Yeah.
health and, cancer prevention, disease prevention. So I feel pretty good about adding that into my
Into
my
your
toolkit. Yeah,
repertoire. Yeah,
yeah.
I've had Lauren Lockman on twice now. We just
Oh,
finished a
cool,
part 2 last week actually. And
awesome.
is that something, could you ever see yourself going and doing like a supervised fast for like 21 to like 31 days potentially in
Yeah,
the future?
yeah. I thought about that during this one for sure. What
Yeah.
that would be like to continue. Actually, on day 5, I woke up on day 5 and I was like, I feel pretty normal today. Like this
Uh-huh.
is different. Like I felt like I kind of turned a corner there on day 5. And
Okay.
on day 6, I woke up even better, and the sun was shining, and I like to get a good bike ride out to the beach. It's about a 20-mile round
Yeah.
trip, and I was like, I think I could do it. And my wife was like, Brett, don't,
No, no.
don't remember what you're doing this for. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. But
Yeah.
I was beginning to feel really good day 5, 6, and 7. I could see the progression
Yeah.
changing. And I had obligations this week where I needed to be energized, so I switched back to juice
Yeah.
after that. But it definitely made me think that it would be good to do something longer when the timing is right
Is
for
right.
me.
Yeah.
And I think supervised for I know a lot of people have done them historically for sure on their own, but I'd feel pretty good about having supervision.
Yeah, like for the longer ones,
Yeah,
for sure, just in
21,
case.
30 days, something like that.
Yeah, because obviously, I mean, I don't know if you've heard him, a lot of his he talks a lot about some of his experiences with people
Hmm.
where, this is the thing, you can be, one day you're great, and then the
Yeah,
next day it's like,
you're
oh my
not.
goodness, like all hell breaks loose,
Yeah, I know
and
there are some challenges there.
yeah, for sure. Do you feel now, with having incorporated this cleansing in your life for such a long time, do you feel that people can really acquire optimum health without incorporating some type of detoxification, like fasting, like water fasting or juice feasting,
I
in your experience?
Yeah, I think it really depends upon, there are a lot of variables there, I think.
Yeah.
I think genetics plays into it. I think your past lifestyle, what it's been like, plays into it. I think, your mindset plays into it. So many variables play into that
Yeah.
question. It's tough to say that, you know, I think it's possible, honestly, to achieve optimum health just eating the diet that's specific for humans.
Yeah.
But I think you can really go a long way to improve the quality of your life, and especially the quality of your life in later years,
Yeah.
by incorporating some of these tools like
Yes.
juicing or water fasting or intermittent fasting. I think there's some pretty strong evidence showing that to be the case. So
Yeah.
if you're eating an incredible tropical fruit diet and you're in the sunshine and you're barefoot all the time and you don't have any stress, you could probably do quite well for a long time without
For
having any
sure.
water fasting. But if you're in New York City and you're in the grind, and you're eating,
Yeah.
even if you're eating a great raw food diet or tropical fruit diet, there still can be a need for that body to get some help.
Yeah. And I think I'm like you, I just turned 51 this year as well. And it's like such a shift of like that longevity, but more of the health span of
Mm-hmm.
like really setting in, where it's not so much like, oh, we'll just every day, take it day by day. It's more like, no, like what is my health going to look like in the long
Yeah.
term?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and when we look to people like yourself, or Dan McDonald or John Rose, all
Mm-hmm.
these people, Dr. Morse,
Sure.
even though he's not much on juicing per se, but he includes like
Mm.
mono
Yeah.
fast, grape
Sure.
fast, watermelon, this type of thing.
Watermelon. Sure.
There's always something to take our health to the next level
Mm-hmm.
through, whether it's water, juicing, or just doing a mono meal, even in the raw food space, right? So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, I think it's just a shift in, that health span versus lifespan.
Right. Yeah, and I think I don't know exactly where the average lifespan number is right now for you know Americans or people in the
Hmm.
West, whether it's trending up or trending down. I don't know for sure, but I do know we're living longer than we have in the past.
Yeah.
But a lot of that life is exceeding quality potential. So we find that people are living longer, but those last 5 to 7 years
Yeah,
aren't so great. They're in long-term care
exactly.
facilities, or they're medicated, or they're going through all these treatments or joint
Yes.
replacements, or all these different things. And so I think my goal is to stay as healthy as I can and as vibrant as I can for as long as I can. And I
Yeah,
would like for my last days to be pretty normal up until the very end. We
exactly.
don't have a say in a lot of that, I think, sometimes, but if I had my view of what it would look like, I would be pretty good up until the end.
What's that
So
saying? It's live long, drop dead,
there we
right? If
go.
you live long, just
Yeah.
drop dead. There's
Gotta get it.
nothing. Yeah, you
That'll
just
be
live it.
my next tattoo right here.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's how you want it to go down for sure.
Right, right.
So I wanted to ask you a question too, because you have the Juice Test Kitchen.
Hmm.
So there are so many juicers right now. Like it seems like, especially on Instagram, we have the Nama 2 there. I'm like you. My first juicer was the Champion, and that was
Nice.
like the workhorse of
It's
all
a
workhorses,
beast.
right? It's the beast. Yeah. But with all the juicers out there right now, and because you test these juicers, my first question is it possible to get high quality juice out of a cheap juicer, meaning the extraction, the Brevels, the
Hmm.
Cuisinarts, these types of things?
Yeah, my saying goes that the best juicer out there is the one that's on your countertop cranking out the
Yes.
juice for you day in and day out or
Right.
consistently for your needs. That said, they all do, it's like automobiles, the Chevy Aveo gets you from A to B just like the Maserati does, but that journey might be a little different.
Right.
So
Yes.
every juicer has its pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses, and it's very possible to make some incredible juice with more inexpensive juicers.
Yeah.
My favorite inexpensive juicer option is the Tri-Best Shine. I think it's $118 right now on Amazon.
Okay.
So it's not one that you can make gallons of juice with every
Hmm.
day, but if you wanted to just make 1 to 3 liters per day, as part of your routine for yourself, if you're by
Yeah.
yourself or if you're sharing, a liter or two with your roommate or your partner or your family, what have you, then it's great. And, it's an easy entry point. Now, if you
Hmm.
want to make more and you want to make sorbets and you want to make,
All the
nut
stuff.
butters,
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to start optimizing your juice yield and the nutrient extraction and the enzyme extraction and reduce the pulp levels, then that's where the selection process starts to come in. But for
Hmm.
someone who just wants to keep it simple, get started, there are some really great juicers, for 1 to $250 that you can get and get rolling really quickly. And oftentimes you can find them used on Facebook
Sure.
Marketplace.
Yeah,
There are a
for
lot of
sure.
people like me back in the day that bought the Champion, said, "Oh, this is cool, but I don't really need it." So they stick it in their cabinet, and then at some point they're moving or cleaning out the cabinet, and they say, "Hey, I don't need this juicer anymore," so they'll put it on Facebook
Yeah,
Marketplace. So
right.
there's opportunities to get in the game pretty inexpensively.
What juicer did you use for your 105-day juice
So
cleanse?
at that point in time, I had a combination of the Green Star Elite and the Tri-Best Shine. So I
Okay.
did most everything on the Green Star, which is
Hmm.
a little more time consuming.
Uh-huh.
And then I found pretty quickly that the Green Star wasn't as good with pineapple, and I absolutely love pineapple juice, and I've
Yeah.
drank gallons of it during my 105 days. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, what can I get that does well just with pineapple? And so I
Yeah.
bought a Shine, and away I went from there. And that was kind of the beginning of me taking my technical background from the wine production
Right.
world and saying, hey, there's some differences in these juices. I'm going to help people find out what the best one for their needs is. So I started experimenting. I started picking some up and testing them, and that's where Juicer Test Kitchen was born
That's
too.
so cool.
Yeah.
What juicer now, like if somebody was going to do an extended, like say 30 plus days, for sake of for convenience wise, what would
Hmm.
be the best juicer that you think is out there for that?
For convenience, speed and convenience, just making gallons of juice,
Yeah.
either the Nama J2 or the Kuvings Auto 10.
Okay.
Those are the two batch juicing, the hopper based juicers that you can make a lot of juice really quickly
Yeah.
with. They have great warranties, powerful motors, great companies. Either one of those two are phenomenal for making gallons at a time and cranking it out for a
Yeah.
juice feast.
I have the Nama too. I love it so much.
Yeah,
It's so
for sure.
awesome. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
It's
then
so
for sure.
great.
Yeah, and then if you want to
Um,
get into, if someone were interested in more of the, lower pulp levels and nutrient
yes.
extraction, then you'd move into like the Green Star line or the Sauna or the Pure. Those are where you start to get into the quality and quantity increases there.
Okay, but with that comes like a big jump in price too,
It
right?
it does jump up, yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So yeah, all
Depending on what
depends
your
on your
budget is.
needs.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, I always end my podcast with a question that I ask all my guests, the same one. And the
Okay.
question is, what is your authentic life print? What is your unique expression in the world as Brett Canaday?
Oh goodness, my authentic life print. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Mm,
I'm doing a lot more meditating these days and trying to reconnect with that origin of myself.
yeah.
And I think what it all comes down to is just an imprint of love, just
Mm,
love and
beautiful.
compassion, and realizing that we're all one. You
Mm,
know, we all come from the same thing. We are all
yeah.
the same. We are one. And so what I'm trying to really move myself into is just an imprint of love and compassion and helping as many people as I can, and serve my fellow humans, and
Wow.
in the best way possible. That's probably my best answer
Beautiful.
for that at the moment.
Beautiful. I love that. So, do you work with people? Do you help people on their juicing journey? Do you offer coaching in that way?
I don't actually offer any coaching. There are some really great coaches out there, like
Yeah.
like Shane or Evie Kivish or Nathan. There are just a tons of great
Yeah.
coaches that are experts at it, and I don't really find myself to be called to do the coaching.
Yep.
So I like to refer
Yeah.
folks who ask for that to them. What I do like to do in terms of helping people is just crank as many great recipes out for them that are
Yes.
interesting for them to try, putting them on the website for them to find free so that they can have them available. That's really what I like to do the best, and
Oh,
then help
wow.
them help them make their selections if they're upgrading a juicer or getting a new juicer for the first time. It's kind of my way to help serve
Wow.
folks
Yeah,
there.
you're like in service mode. I love that.
That's
I
what it
love
is.
that.
Yeah, I had to kind
Yeah.
of figure that out after transitioning from the old path to
Yeah.
what we were doing. But I really enjoy it. I love helping people in that light, and gives me a lot of joy.
Beautiful. And where can people find you? Best
So
like to
they
find those juice recipes and your
Yeah, great
juicing.
question.
Yeah.
So obviously, all the social media platforms, I'm at JuiceFeaster. So TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, Threads,
Okay.
etc. And so I do a lot of not daily, but almost every day posting of recipes there.
Okay.
YouTube as well is where I do most of the reviews of juicers. And then at Juicer Test Kitchen, for people who are more interested in a print format, that's where I upload tons of recipes there for folks, as well as written comparison reviews there.
Wow. Okay. And I'll link everything below as well in my show notes.
Excellent.
So,
Awesome.
yeah. So, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been amazing. I've been following you for a while now, and it's been such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you, and I appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you. Okay, Brett. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.